I'll call to order the special meeting of the Finance Committee on Thursday, May the 21st at 3 o'clock. I would like to call the roll to see which committee members are here. Is Denise Adams? Here. She's present. Jeff McIntosh, are you here, Jeff?
Yes.
Here. Jeff's here, okay. James Taylor?
Present.
James is here. And also, I see council members Bessie. Dan, if you'll say hello or something so we know you're there.
Hi, I'm here.
Larson and Scipio.
Yes.
Happy to be here.
Thank everybody for being here today for an unscheduled but a very important meeting. I will say, due to the declaration of the state of emergency, all committee members are participating virtually. We get that on the record. We have one item today, which is the introduction of the budget for the coming fiscal year, and I would like to call on City Manager Garrity to start the program.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of City Council.
Afternoon.
Today we are releasing. Good afternoon. Today, welcome Councilor Taylor to the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Yes.
Much appreciated.
Today we're releasing the proposed FY 2021 budget. Back in February, you'll recall, we had a great economy, maybe the best I can remember in my career. We were looking at a budget picture that was going to allow us to do great things in the coming year. Then COVID-19 changed all that in March. Our economy stopped, kind of like a circuit breaker was flipped in your house, stopped quickly. Since then, we in city government, all of you, all of the city employees, we have focused on two main themes: safety and perseverance. We've worked diligently to protect the safety of our residents and our employees. We've also worked on perseverance. Perseverance is the theme of this budget. One of my favorite quotes is from Rocky Balboa, where he says, I believe it's a speech to his son, he says, "It's not how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can hit and get up and keep moving forward." There's no question we've been hit, the world's been hit by this, but we got to figure out how we can get up and move forward. This budget that Ms. Tony will go over with you in a second is about perseverance, as I said, with the goals of maintaining city services, avoiding any tax or fee increases, and also avoiding layoffs for our employees. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll recognize Ms. Tony for the presentation.
Okay, Ms. Tony, you have the floor.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Chairman Clark, and members of the Finance Committee and Council.
Good afternoon.
I am Patrice Tony, the Budget and Evaluation Director, and today I present to you the proposed budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2021. As the city manager just spoke about, the COVID-19 coronavirus has impacted our economy both locally and on a national level. There has been sky-high unemployment rates, rates that we haven't seen since the Great Depression, pushing almost 15% on a national level. The GDP is declining. Consumer confidence is low due to the uncertainty of the market. The one positive is the federal stimulus that has provided stimulus checks, expanded unemployment benefits, some small business relief, early tax credit, and we also are receiving a few CARE Act funding for local government. The FY21 proposed total budget is $470.6 million. That is a 5% decrease from our current year budget. For operations, we're looking at $362.3 million, debt service $55.7 million, and capital $52 million. Our revenues have been drastically impacted by COVID-19. Each year, our property tax base grows. We were expecting year-end to have a 2.5% growth in our tax base. Currently, for FY21, we're looking at a 0.6% growth in our tax base. So that has a significant impact on what we anticipated for revenue related to our tax base. And in economic times as these, close to a recession, people typically don't purchase cars, so you'll see a slight impact in our registered motor vehicle numbers as well, and then there'll be some impact to business personal property also. For local option sales tax, this is where we see the biggest hit in terms of our revenue to the city. We were projecting a significant revenue growth, approximately $3 million prior to COVID-19. Currently, our FY21 projections based on the revenue, we're looking at less than a drop in about $4 million in revenue for sales tax. So that is a significant loss for our budget. Understanding the revenue side of the budget and the major loss of property and sales tax projected, we have balanced the budget. We were looking at a $13.4 million gap. We have closed that gap, and I'll talk a little bit about those measures in a moment. But our overall budget, considering all funds, and that includes our enterprise funds, is $470.6 million. If you look at the graph on the left is our total expenditures by service area. So the largest piece of that pie is environmental health. In environmental health, you have your water and sewer, sanitation, stormwater, solid waste disposal. Those are the areas in that fund that makes up the largest piece of our budget, followed by public safety, which is police, fire, and emergency management. And then third comes the transportation. For our revenue, when we look at all funds, our largest source of revenue for all funds is charges for services, and that would mainly come from our utilities division, then followed by property taxes. So for the budget highlights and what's in our proposed budget, we are not proposing a tax increase. So our tax rate will remain at 63.74 cents per $100 of assessed property value. There is no reduction in service to level of service to citizens. So our operating budget and what's budgeted for our current year will remain the same. So there should be no impact to any service level changes. One of our budget principles is to protect existing employees. And so this budget does not recommend any staff layoffs. There will be no delay in voter-approved bond projects. In November of 2018, voters approved a bond referendum of $122 million. And so based on the budget, there should not be any delays moving forward with those projects. The budget does not include any new or increased user fees, and that includes fees for the water and sewer. No merit increase for all employees or public safety supplemental pay. This was a measure we had to take to balance the $13.4 million gap. We also needed to reduce positions, and so the budget eliminates 20 vacant positions. There's a net reduction of 20 vacant positions. These vacancies and reduction of positions should not impact any service level. And then we also have in the budget $1.2 million in community agency funding. So that remains unchanged from our current year. For the general fund, we're looking at $214.1 million proposed budget. On the left side, you see expenditures by type. So our largest expenditures for the general fund is personnel, then followed by supplies and services. For the resources, the revenues, is the largest part to fund general fund is property taxes, and that's 52% of our resources for the general fund, followed by sales taxes at 16.5%, and then charges for services. As mentioned before, we had to eliminate a net of 20 positions from the budget. This list are vacant positions that were in the general fund. These positions have been vacant, many of them for a significant amount of time. This has been reviewed with city senior staff and to make sure that there would be no impact to reduction in service level in reducing eliminating these positions from the budget. The positions you see in white were just chosen because of the vacancy. The last three at the bottom are specifically due to the phase out of the school resource officer program that's now handled by the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. So that's a total of 10 positions, 8 officers, 1 sergeant, and 1 corporal. So that was already part of the elimination plan. The budget includes the addition of 4 positions. However, these positions have no impact to the general fund and will not increase our general fund allocation. One is in risk management. This is an assistant city attorney. The functions of these duties used to be outsourced or contracted out, and so now to be brought in-house, but the position will be paid 100% by RAMCO. And then in the water and sewer fund, we're adding 3 positions. This is a mandate from the state for a cross connections program, and to be able to truly have the program up and running, they need additional 3 positions. And so this will be funded out of the water and sewer fund and have no impact to the general fund. In addition to all of the budget balancing strategies that I mentioned before, including elimination of positions, we also still had to utilize general fund balance. Typically, in a normal budget year, we appropriate $2 million of fund balance that we do not project to spend. This is a different year, and so we needed to budget an additional $3.4 million just to balance that $13.4 million budget gap. And so going forward, we've budgeted $5.4 million of unrestricted fund balance to balance this budget. This brings our reserves down to a 10.2%. We have a city policy to maintain a reserve of 14%, and by law, we cannot go under 8%. So this brings us really close to that 8% cutoff of what we need in reserve. This was necessary due to COVID-19, but we have to have strategy to rebuild this reserve back up just for any uncertain new events such as COVID, such as a winter storm that may come up that we are not prepared for. So moving on to the capital plan. So the capital plan is a 6-year schedule of the city's capital appropriations for the next 6 years. The goal of the capital plan is to fund all appropriate capital needs by matching projects with appropriate funds at the appropriate time. For the FY21 budget, we are budgeting $52 million in capital spending. The major piece of that is environmental health. So these are capital projects primarily in the water and sewer fund. For the next 6 years, we're looking at a budget of $368 million for our 6-year plan. Once again, healthy environment is our largest area, mainly because of water and sewer projects. So due to COVID-19, we're looking at just a new horizon. It's a new day. There is just this uncertainty about the long-term impact of COVID-19. Past expectations for revenue growth may not be fully regained in the near future. There's just this uncertainty of the economic recovery due to COVID-19. And for that reason, we have to create some new budgetary restraints and really focus on a strategy to rebuild our fund balance. Looking forward to future budget goals, a goal would be to reinstate regular employee pay for performance, to replace aging equipment and vehicles. This budget has very limited equipment replacement. It's just our really critical needs, and so there's a number of needs, and as equipment and vehicles age, there's an additional cost for maintenance, and so that also has an impact on our budget. We would like to enhance information systems technology. This would allow us at least to come up to current technology, help the city become more efficient and utilize technology better. Then we need to respond to the growing service needs of our community and of our city. And then lastly, but most importantly, we would need to maintain our city's AAA credit rating, which we've had for many years, and we just have to have a strategy to continue to maintain that credit rating. The budget will be reviewed over these next 3 dates here on the screen. On Thursday, May 28th at 4:00 p.m., there will be a Finance Committee budget workshop. At the workshop, I will entertain questions about the proposed budget. People will have a week to review the budget. The budget will be available online starting late this evening, and the council and mayor will have a copy sent to your home in your package this evening. There will also be a public hearing. We will review community agencies, the highlights of the nonprofit agencies that we fund in the community, and the public hearing will be held on the budget. On Thursday, June the 4th at 4:00 p.m., there will be another Finance Committee budget workshop to continue discussions about the budget and also a consideration of a recommended budget to be proposed, and a property tax rate. However, a property tax rate is not in the proposed budget. On Monday, June the 15th at 7:00 p.m. would be a second public hearing and the budget adoption. All of these currently will take place via WebEx, can be viewed on Channel 13 and at the city's website. The document will be available at www.cityofws.org/budget. And I'd like to entertain any questions at this time.
So 2 of those meetings are finance, and the last one is the whole committee, the whole council.
City council.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you, Ms. Tony. Questions, comments? Dee Dee, I see you got your hand up. By the way, I can see most of y'all. And Meredith will tell me if anybody buzzes in and wants something. Dee Dee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Clark, members of the City Council and the committee. As we all know, the Depression took place from 1929 to about 1933 or 34. That's about a span of about 4 or 5 years. Most of us weren't born then, but when Ms. Tony said that we haven't seen anything like this since the Depression, that means that the turn the corner part of this may not happen for another 4 to 5 years. So we're in a mode of trying to survive, preserve, and the sustainability of our city and our citizens. I would like for Ms. Tony or if Ms. Saunders or Lee, Mr. Garrity, to just refresh the council and the public on our general fund balance and what year we voted on a resolution to change the percentage that we keep in it in order to stay solvent. We know the law requires us, but there's also a cap that we can control, and we were at a certain level, then we raised it because everything was going great after the recession, and now we're where we at now, and knowing that it's gonna drop.
Okay, we have a question on the fund balance percentages.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Lisa, I'll
Yes,
recommend you.
sure. Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of City Council. We did change our fund balance and policy probably 2 times over the last 7 years. And we've been gradually trying to move it up to what GFOA, which is the General Finance Officers Association, recommends, and that is 2 months of your operating budget you should have in your available fund balance, or basically in your savings account. And what that equates to is 16% of your total expenditures. So we raised it twice. Once we raised it to 12.5% from 10% about 2013. And then in 2016, I think, roughly, we raised it to 14%. So I think that's very much in line with what GFOA would want us to be. If you took 2 months operating expenditures today out of this budget, that'd be right about $35 million. And we're looking at our unreserved fund balance being more like about 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Scipio, you had a question or comment?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. When we look at the slide that dealt with the capital, there was a decline. And I wondered if that decline was because we have fewer projects in the capital plan for the coming year. And that impacted that budget that way.
Okay. Somebody want to comment on the capital budget? Go ahead.
Yes, Councilmember Scipio, I think it is a combination of timing for how some of the capital projects were just lined up, but a piece of it is water and sewer projects, and they have deferred a few projects just based on the current time and just making sure their budget is aligned. So it's a combination of both things.
Okay.
And Courtney Driver is on the call if she wants to comment any about the water and sewer capital projects.
Ms. Driver, would you like to comment on that, please?
I really don't have anything to add. Patrice, that's exactly right. It's a combination of this just being a lower budget request for us this year because of our long-term capital needs, but we have also delayed some projects due to the current situation.
Thank you. Ms. Scipio, do you have anything else?
Yes, I had another request on the slide that shows all funds, total net expenditures, total revenues. I would like to know how does the new budget look versus the current budget? So what percent is increasing for each of the categories or declining for each of the categories versus the current budget? That can be given at some point.
Yeah, we could put that on the list of things.
Yeah.
Yes, we will create that as in our response package. I'll be happy to present that at the next meeting.
As well as the general fund, where it's a 214 million by categories. If you could just show how it changes versus the current budget for the new budget.
Yes, we will be glad to do that.
Mr. Taylor, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the police chief or for Assistant City Manager, Manager Logan Ford, but I'll make a comment first.
Go ahead.
The vacant positions or the frozen positions that are listed in the report are fairly spread well across several departments, and I don't really have a problem about that. I couldn't help but notice that we will eliminate more positions in the police department, more frozen positions in the police department, any other department, and it does make sense because we have shifted away from the school resource officer program. However, I must say in our city, in many of our communities, some of them at least, there are some that have experienced an increase in violent crimes lately. So I just want to ask a quick question for the public. Does the elimination of the vacant SRO police positions in any way decrease our level of service to from the police to any of our communities in the city of Winston-Salem in any way?
Chairman Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and Councilmember Taylor, the question that you asked regarding the impact that eliminating those SRO positions would have on our ability to patrol, right now, the plan is for us to absorb those officers into vacant positions that we already have in the police department. Right now, we are running around 40 vacancies, so we have some capacity there as we're still trying to. So I don't anticipate there to be an adverse impact because we're already running some vacancies, so we have some room to fill vacant positions within the department. And we'll just have to continue to monitor that.
I think anytime we eliminate 10 or 11 positions in one department, there are going to be some questions that are raised. So I just wanted to make sure that that was spoken into the record.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Larson, you're up next.
Yes, I think that answered my question about the SROs. I was just concerned if they were getting reallocated, if the positions were being eliminated, but not the personnel.
That's
and
right.
That seems the answer to it. I do have another question, and maybe Courtney can answer this. When we talk about healthy environment as a major component of our budget operations, how much of that 66% is actually controlled by the Utilities Commission? In other words, there's a separate budget operating with the Utilities Commission. Is that correct? And is that incorporated then into the city budget?
Councilor Larson, this is Damon. So good afternoon, Chairman Clark,
Greetings.
Pro Tem Adams, and members of City Council. So yes, that is the Utility Commission's budget. However, under the agreement, the City Council has the authority to officially adopt it. So the Utility Commission recommends that budget to the City Council, and the City Council then adopts it.
So is that total amount, is that all Utilities Commission, that all that purple basically? That's just their budget. We don't have a part of that slice of pie, do we? As a city? I mean, as separate from the Utilities Commission. So that's their budget, basically, devised and sent to us.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
This is Patrice. That piece of the pie is our whole. It's a service area called Healthy Environment. So it includes water and sewer, but it also includes sanitation, solid waste disposal, stormwater management. Are all wrapped into that. It just so happens that water and sewer is just the largest component of our healthy environment service area.
That includes landfill operation?
Yes.
Yes.
And water and sewer. Mm-hmm.
And garbage pickup,
solid waste,
leaves, all that. Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Mr. Clark, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Mr. Bessie, go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. Had several questions. The staff may have already anticipated this and calculated it, but if not, there's no rush to try to get this information today, like it before the next discussion meeting. The eliminated public safety step increase. What would that cost us in addition? First, if it were restored for the entire year, and second, if it were restored for implementation mid-year. And I'm sure that staff have calculated what a 1% average merit increase would cost for the year. Same question for that. And same question if we were to eliminate merit increases for staff at the departmental director level and above and elected officials. I know that's not going to be much total compared to the size of the budget. And what have staff done so far to evaluate potential sources of federal assistance and what impact they could have on resources available for the year? And that would include both proposed increases in filed budget bills in Congress and any impacts of indirect impacts of assistance that has already been provided and could go to some expenses to cover a portion of those for the year, with recognition that we would have to replace that revenue in the next budget year. I think that's everything that I wanted to ask for review, please.
Okay, we'll put that on the list.
Thank you.
Ms. Adams.
Yes, thank you. What I'd like to, and I did ask that Councilmember Bessie that the council between now and the next meeting, a committee or the finance, be giving a couple of scenarios where we are, where we hope to be if we get any funding from the federal or the state or any of the large bills that you're talking about legislatively and others. And what would be our best case scenario if we got that and this virus just miraculously goes away? I'd also like to let the council know that I've also, and I'm sure the chair, Councilmember Clark, has asked that staff be prepared to let us know, because of the promise we made based on our salary disparity study, what would that look like for us to implement that for the people that were promised to get them the $15 or $14? I understand the need or to increase the pay of our safety, public safety and emergency responders. But I look at the folks who are at the bottom reign of pay that we all agreed that we would work to bring them up. And with this virus, those people are struggling even more. They didn't get that bump that they don't so desperately need right now. So I've asked to see what that bump would look like. And I know there's the compression and the other moves that will have to be made in some of the job positions. But I think we need to look at that more closely. And not that anybody is any less important, but this is a promise that we took on years ago. And I knew we did this to hopefully bridge the gap, keep public safety, emergency responders here. But we have a group of employees that have been with us and been suffering or at that low level, and again, that were depending on that bump this year. So I'd like to see that. And I'd also like to have us realize or think about, and we began doing this years ago, instead of us hearing about the budget process at the beginning of the fiscal year and midpoint, I think we now need to go into a as needed basis on alert, that we need to see Councilmember Clark, Chair Clark, more updates on a regular basis, whether we do them through an email or we do them through virtual Zoom, that we need to see where we are as this needle is constantly moving every day. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McIntosh. By the way, I've got some other folks that have asked, but Mr. McIntosh is next.
Yeah, I'm going to save most of my questions for after we get to line item stuff so we can get down into details. But I do want to echo what a couple of other council members have said. I'd like to see somewhat of a roadmap of how any reimbursement we get from the feds or the state comes in, how that will be dispersed, where that will go. I know an awful lot of will be scripted by whatever source it's coming from, but anything that we have the ability to pick and choose how it's spent, I'd like to know what the plan is for that, because I'm sure individual council members will want to comment on that. But other than that, I'll wait for the bulk of the details before I'm going to ask real questions.
Thank you. Ms. Scipio.
Yes, I have two questions. One has to deal with staffing. Though we're not filling these vacant positions, is it that positions that are currently open will be filled as they come up or needed and get occupancies or people for those positions? They're already open, but we haven't filled them yet. And does this mean we are going to have a hiring freeze for just new positions that come up? Or is there an overall hiring freeze right now? I just want to know how we interpret this.
Thank you. Okay, Ben, you gonna comment?
Good afternoon, Chairman Clark, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of the City Council. So we have put into motion what I would call a soft freeze at this point. So we are looking at vacancies as they open up. So the ones that are not on the list to be eliminated as part of the budget, would still be, positions we would look to fill if they are in priority areas. So for example, police officer vacancies, firefighter vacancies, we would certainly continue to post those vacancies. But in other areas, probably mainly administrative positions, probably some professional positions, we may be looking at more of a, like I said, a soft freeze where we'll look at the need, evaluate, the priority for, moving a vacancy forward to be posted. So yes, we're eliminating vacancies as part of balancing the budget, but knowing what we face going into next fiscal year, we're also going to manage a soft freeze, so we're still managing our spending.
Okay, thank you very much. And also in our assumptions on this budget, we're saying that there would be no reduction in service levels to citizens. But I understand that philosophically, but that means that it may be delays if other conditions impact that, like a pandemic. We haven't fulfilled some of our service levels currently, like leaf and the brush pickup and tree limbs pickup and yard service mowing and that. So we're saying we're going to continue to offer the services, although the caveat would be that when necessary, they may be delayed. Is that correct?
Ben, anybody? Yeah.
So
we're currently not picking up. Brush pickup, what's happening?
The budget, reflects, the commitment to maintaining our current level of service. In other words, yes, I mean, there could be services we would have to adjust based on the conditions that the pandemic presents to us. But outside of those extraordinary circumstances, like we experienced with the yard car program, where we're trying to, maintain social distancing, protect our workforce. Otherwise, the budget, provides the resources to continue those services. So we're not contemplating actually eliminating services as a cost saving measure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? John, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 20 positions are being eliminated. What we're basically saying is they are coming off the organizational chart entirely. These positions will no longer, we have more vacant positions in the city than 20 positions currently. But these 20 have decided that they will no longer even be on the organizational chart. Is that what I'm understanding? For example, I know we've had difficulty filling all our police force. We got some 35 to 45, whatever it is, vacant officer positions right now on the organizational chart. We fund those every year, or we budget for them, and yet we've never been able to really fill those positions. And we've always sort of dealt with the money that comes from that surplus in dealing in part with the salaries for police improvements and what have you. As we look at the budget, I think realistically, the positions that are vacant right now, and if we are funding them in the budget, what are the chances of them actually being filled in the coming months? And is that going to be a factor, in fact, of how much money we actually have to spend in our salary lines? Follow the question? Understand? Yeah.
So Councilmember Larson, we do rely on a certain amount of natural attrition with turnover to achieve what we call salary savings. So with our budget in effect, budget's 98% of the cost of all of our authorized positions, because we know we're going to have turnover. As I mentioned a moment ago, that we're implementing a soft freeze, and so we would continue to post critical positions like sworn police and certified fire positions. We'll make sure those services are staffed as best we can. But other vacancies may, stretch into the year because of implementing a soft freeze. It's going to be kind of a case-by-case determination as to whether we would release a position to be filled. So as I mentioned before, it could be some administrative positions, could be some professional positions that would remain vacant as we're trying to kind of manage our spending even beyond just saving from eliminating the 20, or actually, in gross numbers, the 24 positions.
We're not putting a freeze on hiring policemen, are we?
No. That's why this is a soft freeze as opposed to a hard freeze. A hard freeze would mean we would not be filling any positions. We're looking at a soft freeze where still the sworn police, the certified fire positions would be looking, we're funding the classes to fill the positions, but there are other positions in other areas of the city government that we will case-by-case basis as to whether we release it to be filled.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Scipio.
Following up with that, Mr. Rao, we are going to be continuing departmental transfers and promotions to fill open positions, right? That's still part of our process, as opposed to looking to bring in a totally new hire. Are we going to be promoting and transferring within to fill some of the vacant positions?
Certainly if we release a position to be filled, we will certainly go through follow our normal process. We would have that opportunity for, for promotion from.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay. To reiterate what has been said, we will all get the big thick booklets this afternoon in our Thursday packet. For those in the building, you might be able to pick them up in the secretary or the clerk's office. I don't know if they're ready yet. I would highly recommend that you review them this weekend and early next week and get back to Ms. Patrice with any specific questions you have. It is best if the staff can get them ahead of time so they can do the proper research and have them, us written answers for them. With that, that's all we have on the agenda. Any closing comments from anyone? If not, we will stand adjourned. Thank everybody for joining us today.